Hey traders, Raghee here, and this is the daily update of how do you trade the first hour of the day. That's all I do as a day trader. From about 9:35 to 10:35, I look for day trades, and that's it. The first hour of the day is the most powerful for me. It keeps me from having to look for day trades throughout the day, which I don't find to be necessarily the best tactic for what I'm going to show you here. And I'm going to show you the two strategies that we deployed to put on 2 day trades this morning in the Sector Secrets Mastery. The first one was Bank of America. The idea was to buy the calls, and you can see here in the notes, wanted to buy the 49 or 49.5 call. Either one is fine, quite frankly. The idea here is to have enough contracts to be able to buy at least in groups of 3, which means I'm looking for 3 targets. So if you have a budget for 3, great, buy 3 contracts. If you can budget 6, great. If you can budget 9, but what that allows us to do is scale out as the trade goes in our favor. Hopefully hitting 3 targets, but remembering that we need to protect profit. We're going to get into that as well. So if you've ever struggled to keep your day trading profits, you'll see how we did that this morning. So this was the entry time, right around 10:10 in this area, and price hit that 50.70 level. And at 50.70, I bought the 49 calls right here for, I'm looking right now, $1.85. I think I paid up a little bit on these. I could have easily got $1.80 or maybe even $1.75, but $1.85 is where I got in. Now my risk on this is 15%. So if that $1.85 call loses 15% of the premium, I'm going to get out. That's it. I'm not going to add. I'm not going to flail. I'm not going to whine. I'm not going to cry. There's no crying in baseball. There's no whining in trading. So up it goes. Awesome. It's bouncing off a support level. And the idea was to scale out at 51, which we hit right up in here. At this point, these options were worth $2.12. We went from $1.85 to $2.12. Now, again, depending on how many contracts you've got, that could be a decent scale, right? If you've got 3 contracts, well, you're going to scale out of 1 contract here. But if you've got, say, 9 contracts, you're going to scale out of 3. If you've got 12, you can scale out of 4. That's only a 1/3 scale out. Some of our traders like to be a little bit more active on the first target, and they'll scale out of up to 1/2 of the contracts. Now, if you're wondering about scaling out, remember, we really don't know how far price could go. Now, Bank of America really didn't get much above 51. So you can see here on the way back down, well, I've got that break even stop to catch my fall, and I closed the trade at $1.80. I'll usually use a 5-cent cushion around my entry price, so I don't get caught up in the bid ask in case it does bounce around this level of support. If it wants to stay in a range and bounce back and forth, I'll give it a 5-cent cushion. It's not going to evaporate my gains, but that's one thing you can do. So anywhere between 180 and 185, close the trade. That's it. Game over. And we move on. Now, one of the things that traders have a difficulty doing when they're day trading is moving on to different symbols that might present different opportunities. In this case, we moved on to RBLX. Notice we didn't stick with Bank of America and ask if we could do it again. The structure was different. We moved on. In this case, RBLX, let's take a look at the next alert. RBLX gave us an entry for the 135 calls when price reached 136.47 right in here. So this is support. We wanted to buy at this support level. We had nice bullish momentum, but a neutral trend, right? Neutral trend means it's not time to be greedy. If I have a trending market, I'm going to be a little bit more tactically greedy with, say, the second target. Now, the first target is very important because the first target, T1, is the first step of managing risk. If I have a T1 that's out in the stratosphere, I'm never going to get to the point where I A, realize a profit, and B, tighten my stop to a break even. So one of the mistakes a lot of traders make is they have a far too ambitious first target. I'm not trying to gain 100% on the first target. Usually if I can gain about 25% on T1, I'm pretty happy about that. If it's more than that, great. But the second target is where we start to get tactically greedy. Well, that's exactly what we ended up doing. So we scaled out. The first entry was for $4. What did I enter at? $4.20. So that was the 420 entry in here. So $4.20. My risk is going to be no more than 25% of premium paid. Okay. So moving on up first scale out here. And look, I'm not getting out of bed to get into a trade that goes from 420 to 475. However, what does this allow me to do? Tighten up my stop. So no longer am I risking 25%. I'm going to risk from about 420 to 415. So once something is a winner, that's what T1 is. It's a winner. We don't want to let it turn into a loser, right? Okay, so at that point, we thought, wait a minute, this is starting to look pretty solid. Consistent green candles, consistent bullish momentum, which typically leads us to looking at more follow through, right? So if we have enough bullish momentum and momentum persists, a trend sometimes organizes. The next thing is, well, where's the second target? And you'll see the second target was down here at 1038. We said, you know what, let's scale out at 138.75 right in here when price moves to, in this case, the resistance of the daily price movement range. And this is usually going to show us 68% of the time what the range for the day is going to be. So this gray zone is the daily price movement range support, and this gold zone is the daily price movement range resistance. And that's typically going to be the range for the day most often. And you can see that's exactly what it ended up being. So if I got greedy thinking, oh, we're going to keep going through the historical volatility of Roblox, I would have been, well, one, stubborn, and two, I would have missed out on a great second scale out. That second scale out, by the way, was for $5 and, what do I have here? $5, sometimes I can't even read my own screen. $5.15. So again, remember, we bought this down here for 420. Again, scaled out once at 475, and then scaled out again up here for $5.15. Now, if you're noticing that we're in this daily price movement range, say, Rag, we're stuck in this area, right? We can see that there's a lot of action in this area. We're not really moving much higher. Well, you'll notice here, this red zone is overlapping. That's the hourly price movement range. These are all automated zones. I don't have to change any settings. I'm not doing anything manually. That's an hourly price movement range within the daily price movement range. So some traders might have said, Rag, this thing is stuck. It's done its 68% probability move. It looks like it's not going to move much higher. You can see how it's battling it out here for darn near an hour. And so some traders will say, Rag, you know what? Let's just take a scale out. And this was about 610 up in here. Now, as price reaches T1, I mentioned I moved to break even. When we get to T2, I move my stop to T1, or now it's a tightened or trailing stop. If we get to T3, well, that's really our last target in a lot of ways. And that's where ultimately the game is over. Now, let's say you didn't scale out at T3, but you hung on with T2. No problem. You know, once price moved back down to basically 515, or the price level that I was using for our T1, which was 137.29, game over. Those are the two trades we put on in the Sector Secrets Mastery. We do this for 1 hour every day. That's it, 60 minutes. And then once this is done, we call it a day. So two winners today, Bank of America from 185 to 212, and Roblox from 420 to 475 to 515, and for some traders to 610. And then again, you can see how those tightened stops protect us from basically giving back too much unrealized profit. And you can see what an outstanding job the daily price movement ranges did, showing us usually what's going to be the bulk of the move for the day. And I'll do these every single day. I've been doing them back at my channel at Raghee Horner, so you can check that out if you'd like. And you can catch them right here, how to day trade the first hour of the morning. I'll be posting these at the Simpler Trading channel, so you can catch these every day, and I'll just give you a synopsis of what we did in the room. And then if you want to catch the show that I do live every morning, I'll be doing that at the Raghee Horner channel. So if you want to watch the live trading prep, this is how we prepared for Bank of America. This is how we prepared for RBLX. So if you want to catch the first 20 minutes of our morning session in the Sector Secrets Mastery, you can do that every morning from 9:20 to 9:40. And that is the way we wrapped up the session today. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them below, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next first hour of